Had an argument last week. Who told you that this would be easy? You said it was over, but I didn't want you to leave me. You found a time to call me.
Happy Monday, my wonderful viewing audience, my bunny hole fun folks. I am extremely excited, and as most of you know, I go to swinger conferences, conventions, and things like that, mostly to be able to bring information back to you all. One of the most awesome and amazing people I met was Robert from Shameless Care. He has a wealth of knowledge and he has a wonderful company called Shameless Care. So he is going to be my guest today. Say hi, Robert. Oop.
I cannot hear, Bunny. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Can you hear? I feel like Verizon. Can you hear me now? Can he? I'm trying to see if he can hear me now.
Fresh.
Are you able to hear me now? I think we're going to bring him right back in. Let's see. Can you hear me now, Robert?
I sure can. Yeah, your producer told me
Okay.
to refresh my screen, and here I am. So thank you.
Okay, great. So, Robert, just say hi to everyone. I'm. This is Robert with Shameless Care. I'm going to give Robert pretty much the stage to pretty much tell us one about Shameless Care, what they do, what they offer, the products that they have, and you have the floor, Robert.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. And Bunny, can I assume that most of your listeners are in the lifestyle or at least supportive of the lifestyle? Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. A lot of my viewers are either lifestyle curious in the lifestyle or gathering information because it's something that they may be considering.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody. And my name is Robert, like we said earlier. And my story begins in the lifestyle as well. I had been in the lifestyle for probably about 15 years or so. And I really thought that I was very progressive when it came to sexual health. I really prided myself on getting routine STI testing. I would sort of lecture other people about it. I thought I was doing everything right. And then one day, a partner texted me and told me that I had given her gonorrhea. And I was really surprised by that. Now, she was fine, but her husband had exploded with gonorrhea symptoms, and all signs pointed back at me. And like I said, I was really surprised by that. But one of the reasons is because I had just gotten STI tested for, a full panel STI test since I had been with her. And so I showed her those results, and she was much sharper than I am, of course. And she said, "Well, it doesn't look like you were throat swab tested. Were you throat swab tested?" And I was like, "What the hell is that?" I had no idea what that was. I mean, for 15 years, no matter where I had gotten STI tested, from an urgent care or my family physician or a telehealth platform, you name it, for me as a man, it had always been a blood test and a urine test, and out the door I went. I had never even heard of this thing called a throat swab. But off I was on this journey, like on Wizard of Oz, off to see the wizard, trying to find my way to a doctor who knew
Yes.
what this was, partly just so I could tell her, like, nope, sorry, it wasn't me. But I go to my first doctor, and he doesn't know what a throat swab test is for gonorrhea either. He won't do it, because he doesn't know what it is. The second one ordered it for me, but when I went down to the phlebotomist in the lab, and this is a huge medical building, I don't know, it's probably got several dozen physician offices in it, and one lab. Well, when I go to the lab in the basement, the phlebotomist, who was not a young woman, I'm assuming this was not her first day on the job, she goes, I don't know what this is. I've never collected one before. The doctor's going to have to do it, if anybody's going to do it. So I go back to the doctor's office, and the doctor refuses to do it because he doesn't know how to do it. I finally go to a third physician, and that physician knew how to do it, sent it off to the lab. And sure enough, I had a completely asymptomatic case of oral gonorrhea, but it was symptomatic for me, but I was spreading it to other people. And that impacted me pretty dramatically because I have enough lifestyle experience to go, okay, I've seen thousands of people be intimate in playrooms, in swinger clubs in London and Jamaica and hedonism and all across the United States. Everybody's basically doing the same thing. Not everyone, but most people, which is they're having unprotected oral sex and using a condom for penis and vaginal sex or penis and anal sex. Yet when they go to the doctor, they're testing if their experience is like mine, undoubtedly doesn't jive with that, right? Like
Mhm.
the very place they're most likely to be infected is in their throat. And if they're going to the doctor and getting genital only testing, then that just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I spent the next couple of years trying to get this telehealth company that had tested me to allow or to offer throat swabs. They wouldn't do it. I now realize they can't do it just based upon the way their system works. But that's neither here nor there. So I started Shameless Care to literally for that reason to address that problem. And we have a
Okay.
team of 25 board certified physicians across the United States, and we do at-home STI testing, which is where somebody orders an STI test online and a physician that's licensed in their state. So let's say that you have a listener right now, Bunny, who is living in Maryland, and that listener orders an STI test using coupon code Bunny, of course. And then a physician that's licensed in Maryland will review their medical information. And if they deem it appropriate, we'll order that person a test. Most of the time, it is appropriate. That test then shows up right in their mailbox in Maryland, Bunny. They do the anal swab, the oral swab, and the blood and the urine themselves. They send it back to the lab. And about 2 days after it reaches the lab, the physician gets the results and the physician reviews the information. And this is the coolest part, really, if the person is positive, that physician treats them for free. So if that person has a chlamydia infection, let's say, no big deal. That doctor already knows their allergies, the other medications they're on, their preferred pharmacy, and just sends in that case, doxycycline prescription to their local pharmacy. They pick it up after work that day, and case closed. They move on with their life. So that's what we do from the testing side of things, and that's the origin story of the company.
Okay, can I'm just going to interject just a little bit right now, Robert. Um, I have a little bit of a different experience from you because I have been working and volunteering with what we call ASOs, which are AIDS service organizations, for more decades than I care to admit to. Aware of oral swabs. Oral swabs is something that I have introduced to a lot of people in the lifestyle because, like you, I have plenty of people who say, "Oh, I've gotten tested, I'm good," and I say, "Well, have you gotten an oral swab?" Because, as you stated, a lot of people engage in oral sex and they don't use barrier methods. This is where and I tell my listening audience about using dental dams and using flavored condoms for oral sex because I want them to understand that you have to protect your mouth as well. And the mouth is the easiest place to allow bacteria and viruses to kind of multiply and do their thing because your mouth is usually at any given time about at least 98 degrees. When you go to the doctor and they take your temperature, they're usually like 98 plus whatever, whatever. And so that being said, I'm glad that you had that experience because it did open your eyes to something that a lot of people in the lifestyle do not take into consideration, which is when they go to get tested to request oral testing like you, um, my gynecologist is actually with a major hospital, And when I went in there and asked for oral swabbing, when I asked for my STD testing and my STI testing, um, again, they looked at me like a deer caught in the headlights, like, say what? You know, because again, that's not a request they get a lot. And they also made me jump through several hoops to get that testing. And I actually had to wind up going back um, to an ASO to get the testing because again, it's not something that's offered. It's just started being common at the local health clinics because they're now seeing a lot more cases of oral STIs as opposed to genital STIs. So because of that, and I also used to live in Atlanta, home of CDC. So again, most of the ASOs there make that a habit to test orally and genitally when they come to testing. But I really commend you because again, that is something that a lot of people seek out, but again, don't know where to find it. And the fact that you built your clinic off of that opportunity for people who may need it, I truly commend you for that. But you can get going with the rest of your story.
Well, I really appreciate that, and yeah, I saw a study recently that actually came out in about the past 6 months, and it looked at 45 million gonorrhea and chlamydia tests over the past several years in the United States, and 1% of women had been throat swab tested, and 13% of men. And now this was so 1% of the women who had been tested for gonorrhea or chlamydia were throat swab tested, and 13% for men. Both of those numbers are pathetically low, but it goes to show that, public health clinics and things that often focus on men who have sex with men are often just better at this. They better understand STIs, and that's why those numbers are higher. And, I work with physicians every single day now, certainly not throwing anybody under the bus. It is nearly impossible. Well, first of all, I couldn't have passed medical school, but even if I could have by some miracle, I can't imagine the sheer variety of things that these doctors deal with every day. Somebody might have a sprained ankle, the next person has the flu, the next person has a lump in her breast. Like, how can you possibly deal with all of this? And then somebody walks in and says, well, I'm a swinger. I want to be tested for everything. Like, how could you possibly, be an expert on all of those things? So one of the things that I encourage people to do is if they go to shamelesscare.com and they're like, whoa, I can't afford this, or you know what, I work really hard for my insurance. Shameless Care doesn't accept insurance, but I want to use my insurance. God bless you for that. That's awesome. Feel free to screenshot those tests on our landing page that are, for sale, and take those into your doctor's office. And here's a pro tip for everybody. Don't just tell them what you want, because this is another thing, Bunny, that I don't think people understand. I've learned this since I've been in this business. When the doctor's listening to you and typing into the electronic health record, if you tell them 14 different sexually transmitted infections that you want to be tested for and all these locations, it's not one button in their computer system. They have to hunt around for all of. So just the idea that they're going to hold all of that in their mind and find all of it is impossible. So if you actually hand them something that they can look at, I think your odds are going to go way up in terms of getting tested properly.
Absolutely. I also inform my audience that when you go into the doctor and you say, I want to get STI tested, you have to be extremely specific about what test you want. Because some people feel that when they say they want to get STI tested, that they're getting tested for all STIs across the board. And that is not correct. One of the things that people don't understand is some STI tests require paperwork. So if you didn't sign for this test or that test, they did not test you for it. And
Mhm.
people walk away with test results for maybe two or three STIs, and they're walking away with their thought that they're good across the board when that's not necessarily true. Because if you did not get tested for everything, then you can't tell somebody I'm good because you're only good for the 2 or 3 tests that they gave you, and the other stuff that's out there, you could be burning down the city. So, so with that being said, I appreciate you explaining it that way because again, a lot of people don't realize that they can't just say I want STI testing. They have to be specific. They have to go in there with a little bit of knowledge and assist their doctors because I have doctors in my family. They get a general education on everything out there, and then they decide what their specialty is. And then once they figure out what their specialty is, that's really where they focus their knowledge. So if you don't have someone whose specialty is infectious diseases, which I've learned that I have had an infectious disease doctor that I go to because their specification is things like STI testing and things like that. So they're more knowledgeable about those things. But again, your general practitioner is not going to have much of a clue. So I again thank you so much, Robert, for creating Shameless Care because you are doing the world one of the greatest services, whether they're in the swinging lifestyle or not. You have really created a company that is ahead of its time and going above and beyond when it comes to helping keep people healthy, especially when we're talking about sex. And you may continue.
Well, I certainly appreciate those kind words, Bunny. And it reminds me that one of the tips that I often give people is to stop using the phrase full panel, or, kitchen sink,
Yeah.
everything, whatever, because they think that means something, Bunny, and it just doesn't. If you go to the doctor and say, I want a full panel, or, there's online companies selling 10 panels, doctor recommended 10 panels, they don't have throat swabs. Like, you really, to your point, Bunny, and you're really smart about this, you have to go in there and say, I want an oral gonorrhea swab, an oral chlamydia swab. You have to really list it for them, which is going to require all of us, I think, to do some homework. Now, you don't have to know how to spell syphilis or something like that, but at least tell them what you want specifically, because just telling a doctor you want the kitchen sink or a full panel doesn't unlock some special knowledge in their mind, I'm afraid. I wish there was a single button in that electronic health record that they could just click and order the right thing. But as of right now, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Uh,
One of the things I learned living in Atlanta is that if you did ask for, the kitchen sink, all they're going to do, depending on where you go, is test you for either the top 3 or the top 5 infectious diseases in that area.
mhm.
So, say for instance, um, in Atlanta, it was syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and HIV were were in the top. So if you went and asked for quote unquote the kitchen sink, those were the main 4 they were going to test you for. Depending on where you went, because some of them would only test you for 3 of those, and some of them would go a little bit further and maybe test you for 5. So again, you have to be specific. You have to walk in with a little bit of knowledge because you don't know what specifically they are testing you for. And another thing is you have to also look at your results. You have to see what you were tested for and your results because a lot of people see that it's non-reactive and again get generalized and say, oh, I'm good for everything. But again, if you don't realize that you were only tested for chlamydia, HIV, and maybe gonorrhea, the rest of that is still out there, and you still have not gotten cleared of being possibly being infected for those. So thank you, Robert, again.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it would be helpful for your audience too. Just, I know we're kind of talking a lot about STIs here, and we have other things to talk about, but STIs are important, and I dare say they're interesting as well. Is you have to think about who's paying for the tests and what their motivations are. A lot of public health money originates from Washington, D.C., And maybe it went to a specific community because they have a high rate of congenital syphilis, for example, where there are babies being born with syphilis, which is a tragedy in an easily preventable one. And so maybe they're focusing a lot of that testing money on syphilis. They're probably also going to test for HIV, to your point, but they're probably not going to think, let's spend this tax money testing for Mycoplasma genitalium or trichomonas. That's not the public health emergency that they were trying to tackle. But if you're a
Exactly.
swinger and you're like, I just want to know if I have anything so I can be a cool friend and not be passing things to my friends, well, then you have a different motivation from the public health folks that might be funding that local public health center or something like that. So you just kind of have to, think about that, which is to your point exactly.
Absolutely, because some of these tests cost a couple of $100s to administer. And
Yeah.
again, to your point, they are going to go with what their focus is and where they want to spend those dollars, as opposed to running a complete panel on you because you asked for it. If you're not specifically asking for something, again, they're going to give you that mixed bowl of what they're willing to pay for and send you on out the door.
Yeah. One of the things that really drives me nuts, and I try not to say this publicly, but I'm going to say it on your show anyway, is when people call STI testing free, because it's never free. It may be that you're going to a place where it's free to you, but people are paying for it, and the doctors working there are working for a salary, as is the lab techs and the phlebotomists and everybody else. And it's always seemed a little disrespectful for me when somebody's like, oh, I get my testing for free over here, and I'm just like, that's fine, but just let's not talk about it like it's free. It's a little bit like the food pantry, where it's like, that's a fantastic resource for people, and thank God it exists. But the food there's not free, right? Somebody bought it or somebody donated it, and and that sort of thing. So
Yes.
I
Somebody
think people,
funded that. Yeah,
yeah,
somebody
exactly,
they collected donations, they
yeah.
reached out for grants. That money still had to buy food. So somewhere along the line, whatever you're getting for quote unquote free does have a price tag that somebody paid. You are absolutely correct. So what else do
But
you have for us, Robert?
well, I would be remiss anytime I talk about STIs, and Bunny, you've probably talked about this on your show too, but I think it's always useful to tell people about things they can do to permanently head a couple of these things off. And one of them would be HPV vaccination. If people out there have not gotten HPV vaccinated, that's something that you should certainly consider. It's been the modern medical miracle of my lifetime anyway, along with obviously the turning HIV from a death sentence into a preventable infection, and if not preventable, then manageable for most people. But we're seeing cervical cancer rates plummet across the nation and really across the world because of that HPV vaccine. And so if those of you are in your 40s or 50s and you missed it when you were young, which is what happened to me, you may want to consider it now and reduce your risk of some of those types of cancers and warts and things like that. And the other one is the hepatitis B vaccine, which I was fortunate enough to get in college because I was working with human specimens in college, but that's not the case for everybody. But hepatitis B, a lot of people don't realize this, is 50 to 100 times more contagious than HIV, but a simple vaccine pretty much heads it off for the rest of your life. So those are a couple things that people can do to kind of take a little bit more proactive control of their sexual health if they're so inclined.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. So where else are we going now, Robert? I know you've got a variety of things that you offer as shameless care, so I'm ready for it.
Oh, sure. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the medication side of things, Bunny. So the real heartbeat of the company is the STI testing, and I didn't know this until I got started, but with the regulations in all 50 states, in some of those states, you need physicians involved in the testing. And when I found that out, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to need all of these doctors. What else can we do with them? So now we basically do a whole host of sexual health things on the medication side of things. So we offer emergency BV treatment for women. emergency UTI treatment for women, and emergency yeast infection treatment for women. And I'm really proud of the fact, like at Naughty New Orleans, which I think is where we met, right, Bunny? Is that
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So we're partnering with Naughty New Orleans this next year, and we're going to be offering, I think, up to 80, if I'm not mistaken. Because anytime you get 3,000 people together, and hopefully they're having sex, there might be a UTI or two. So we're going to be offering free treatment for people who are sex positive and at that event. But we do that every day across the country. And then erectile dysfunction medication, which we're kind of leaning more heavily now towards into some medications that could help with the mental side of things, because probably everybody listening to me right now knows that it's one thing to get an erection at home where you're comfortable, and it's another thing to get an erection at, say, not in New Orleans, where they have, I don't know, 50 beds pushed together and and there's dozens of people standing around. That's a little different circumstance. So
Yes.
we have a couple new treatments, one of which is apomorphine mixed in with sildenafil and tadalafil, and that is a dopamine agonist. And what that means is it mimics dopamine. It doesn't cause your brain to release dopamine, but it mimics dopamine for a short period of time and really helps start that arousal signaling in the brain for men. And then that helps the tadalafil and the sildenafil. And for your listeners that aren't familiar, those are the active ingredients in Cialis and Viagra. Those are basically the generic versions of that. It helps those other medications work better. Because what I'm seeing, and we also offer PT-141 or bremelanotide as a nasal spray on prescription, and that can help with the mental side of things too for men and for women. But what I'm seeing in the lifestyle, Bunny, and I'm curious to know if you've heard about this or not, I was surprised at Naughty New Orleans how many people told me things like, one person in particular said, "Oh, I'm known as the Trimix guy, and at a certain time of night, people just come by my room and I inject them with Trimix." And for your listeners who may not know what that is, Trimix is a prescription ED medication that an emphasis on prescription. So right away, if you're giving it to perfect strangers, that's illegal. We'll just call it
It's a red
illegal.
flag.
It's definitely a red flag. But it also works almost 100% of the time. And that is a sword that cuts both ways. Because anytime you take something that gets you hard, 100% of the time, there's a risk associated with that, Bunny. You know, if that person takes that and maybe they've had a couple of drinks and they have sex, but they're still erect and they go to sleep, that very well could be the last erection they ever get, because they'll get something called priapism, where the blood is in their penis for too long and they can be permanently disfigured. If you use the medication properly, not a problem. But what I've noticed is there are some people in the lifestyle that I'm not sure are using it properly. And so there's that risk associated there. So we're trying to go more into ED medications, Bunny, to make a long story short, that tackle the mental side of things, because I think that's why a lot of men are turning to very powerful medications with a higher risk profile, like Trimix.
Yeah. And also that Trimix guy is not a medical doctor. So you're thinking about someone who is not taking into consideration any contraindications um, that could possibly injure someone, because you give that to the wrong person and they have a reaction, you know, that turns a good time into a really bad time. So I'm again grateful to you for the education that you're not only giving us, but that you give the rest of your clients who come to Shameless Care.
Well, thank you. I've often, and maybe I just had too much DARE when I was in school, too much of the DARE class, you know, drug abuse resistance education. But I
Yeah,
just think somebody injecting you who you don't know, who might be dressed like a pirate or something, hell, you don't know, it's a swinger party, injecting you with drugs is probably not a good idea. Just a thought I have.
yeah. Across the board, it's like danger, Will Roberts, danger.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
It's
Robert, go ahead. Say what you're
oh
saying.
No, I was just gonna put a bow on that and say, yeah, I think people need to be a little bit wiser with what they put in their body. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to go into my sponsorship break. And then once we're done with that, we're coming back to you, Robert, and we are going to let you give us even more information about what you do at Shameless Care.
Cash rules everything around me. Queen, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, yo.
Yep, trying to make it rain in here, y'all. Got to pay these bills. So most of you all know, I always start with Spunk Lube. Spunk Lube, right up above my head, is a lube that everyone is talking about. I absolutely talk about it. Spunk Lube is a lube that keeps my cushy gushy, keeps my pet wet, and all those fun things. So yes, absolutely love Spunk to the moon and back. Those are my people. Um, Next, we're going to talk about one condoms. And y'all know again, one is another fabulous friend of mine. The One Flex kind of is my current favorite because it has graphene. It's a thin condom that gives you that skin on skin feel, 85% heat transfer. So when you are using this condom, it feels as though there's nothing there. And trust me, I'm one of those people I didn't had to like click the lights on and check a few times because I didn't have some shenanigans happen. But I absolutely love One Condoms. They have about 12 different brands, I should say, 12 different types of condoms with different textures and different feels and things like that. So definitely check them out. Uberlube for sports, sex, and style. They are my go to for silicone lubricant. As you all have been told by me many times, silicone molecules are too large to actually absorb into vaginal anal tissue. For that reason, it keeps everything nice and slick, and it helps you to prevent friction issues, which if you've had those marathon sessions like I have, or you get in the water and you want to get frisky, silicone keeps going and going. It's that great lubricant that's great for you to have sex in the water, or just if you're going to go for, you know, again and again and again, like you got an Energizer bunny with you. It's also great for your hair and your skin, and it helps to prevent chafing. So definitely recommend Uberlube. Um, Moving on, we have Amore Dunham, and Amore Dunham are my couples. They For my couples out there, Amore Dunham have these great red and black boxes. These are what I call your mood boxes. What they do is they pretty much help you open up the lines of communication with your partner. There are several things in there. There's some spicy dice. There are some um, question cards and some role play cards in there. You have some bondage items. You've got the um, s- two satin strips, one that is shorter than the other one. You can use it as a blindfold. You can use it as a restraint to tie up hands and feet. Um, Comes with feathers. You can use that to take away senses and enhance senses. You have a lingerie piece in there that is usually fits up to about 2x, um, depending on where your if you got a lot of junk in your trunk like I do. I think I'm fitting it at the max. So definitely it's a one size fits most piece of lingerie in there, along with some other fun things that help you open up those lines of communication figure out what you like, figure out how to, well, learn how to communicate that to your partner. And again, for us sexy singles, this is also a way to kind of spice it up in the bedroom, because we can change it up with those partners that we have. Um, my design habit, my girl Nicole, she is a graphic designer. She can do things like the banner behind me. She can do things like the imprint on these boxes. She can do things like wraps, like on the condom tins. She can do name tags. She can do business cards. Pretty much, if you can hold it down long enough for her to print on it, she can print on it. She does complete wraps. She does billboards. I mean, she is a one stop shop. That is my girl. Travel by the Browns. Y'all know I am a personal travel concierge. I am there to help you with all of your travel needs. Just reach out to me. You let me know what your budget is, and I help you ball on a budget. Help you have your dream vacation at a price you can afford. Color Street Nails. I told y'all I was gonna have my green. I told y'all, and then I went. So I did the green, and then I'm gonna get a little closer. I went and embellished them with our Manny charms. So these are little peeling sticks that you can put on top of your manicure, and I've got different ones on my nails, but it just enhances your nail. Super fun. I have gotten tons of compliments on not only my green nails but my little charms, and I'm super excited about that. Again, Color Street is your magical dry nail polish. It goes on like a sticker, 100% nail polish. Comes off with nail polish remover, and we have a variety of items. So check us out. On time notary. I am a notary public. I like putting my stamp on stuff. So if you have any notary needs, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to be your notary, and I can do virtual notary as well. And then we have, I'm sorry, I missed. Oh, Starship. I was like, I missed the beginning of that one. But we have Starship Enterprises. Every time I say that, I think of Star Trek. But Starship Enterprises is our brick and mortar sex and vape shop in the state of Georgia. Um, they also have an online presence, so definitely reach out to them for anything sexy or smoky. They can meet all of your needs. We also have malicious women. That's my bitches against bullshit. You know, I am, oh my gosh. And granted, at work today, I was quoting that like a big dog because I had some bitches against bullshit stuff happen at work. But yeah, they have the candles, they have room sprays, they have some cosmetics, because they're literally crying liberal tears. But yes, maliciouswomen.co. That's my girls. I love them to the moon and back. Please join my Telegram group. Follow me on social media. Join my Facebook group. Um, Telegram is where you see all those fun, sexy pictures. Facebook is a little bit more tame because we don't want to go to Facebook jail. But definitely, it's pretty much free for all on Telegram. So definitely join both of my groups. I'd love to have you follow me on social media, and then definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, where my you can see past shows and really get some knowledge. So we're back with Robert. Love ya, Robert. Did I lose him? I had him and then I lost him.
I thought that might happen again. I couldn't hear you again, so I did
Okay.
a refresh that time.
I was like, I hope I didn't scare him away.
No, I couldn't hear you, but I enjoyed seeing your sponsors, so you did a great job.
So,
Well, I
Robert,
just
what else do you have for us?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm sure that some of your listeners are using ED companies that do subscriptions like Rougiette, Hims, Row, Blue Chew. And so what we do is a little bit different. We don't really like subscriptions as far as for medications go. So at shamelesscare.com, the price that you see is the price that people pay for the medical consultation, the medication, shipping, everything like that. And we never bill your credit card again. So whenever people are ready for a refill, they just go back and basically reorder the medication. And it's pretty amazing, Bunny. I learned a pretty valuable lesson a couple of years ago. We used to have subscriptions, and what I realized was that when somebody's payment would auto renew, a lot of times we would get an email and the person would be pretty upset by that. Even though they knew they were joining a subscription, they really wanted their $60 back or what have you. So I didn't like the way that that felt. But the other thing was that 26% of our payments were failing. And the number one reason why they were failing was insufficient funds. And that made me realize, my God, what if that payment had went through just barely, and it was that person's last $60 or whatever it was for a refill of medication they may not even need right now, because I've certainly been in that situation. And then your checkbook bounces, you get a bill that's not paid, the bank is then piling on with fees and stuff like that. And so we just got rid of subscriptions, and the number of failed payments have went down to 6%, and we're all sleeping a little bit better at night. Subscriptions work really well for a lot of products. I'm just not sure that they work well for something like ED medication, in my opinion, where people are using it, every so often.
I agree with you on that. They even, as you may have noticed, they have a lot of commercials about apps that you can get that will find all those subscriptions that
Yeah.
you forgot about. Because that's usually what happens as well. Is people sign up for a subscription, completely forget about it, and like you said, the money comes out their account, and they're like, "What the fruit?" Because
Yeah.
they didn't remember that was going to happen. I've had that happen to me, and I'm like, "What is that?" Matter of fact, recently, um, I was getting this monthly charge. I'm like, "What in the foolishness is this?" Because they actually went up 55 cents. That's what flagged it for me. Come to find out, it was actually my monthly parking for my job. But I totally had the bank like cancel my card and give me a refund of at least one of the charges, only to find out that that was something that I was supposed to be paying for. So again, we forget about subscriptions. I go to work every day. I pay for parking every month, and completely forgot that they were auto withdrawing that money out of my account. So you are totally right with that.
Well, that is the point of subscriptions, really, from a business point of view, is this momentum that people forget about it. There's no doubt about it that when you sell people medication only when they want more medication, that you sell less of it. I don't think that should be a surprise to anybody, but it's the way that we prefer to do things. Because when I think about our doctors, I don't think that the job of our doctors is to sell subscriptions. I think the job of our doctors is to help people and provide them with treatment. I might have just lost you there, Bunny.
She will be back. Keep talking. You're fine.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and tell everybody about a few other things that we have at Shameless Care, because we've talked about STIs and we've talked about ED, but there are some things that are potentially a little bit more fun. And one of them is PT-141, or also known as bremelanotide, which has been shown to increase sexual desire in both men and women. And I particularly love that product because everybody's got a different story, right? But my
Yeah.
story is I just can't turn Shameless Care off. Well, there are people in my life that love me and deserve a good date when it's time for a date. They don't want me sitting there thinking about business and that sort of thing. So I do find medication like PT-141 to be very helpful in that regard, to kind of help me switch my mind from work to
The
to
sexy
play.
time.
To play, yeah, absolutely. Um, we also have oxytocin, which works differently, but kind of similar vein. I would just encourage people to go over to the website shamelesscare.com. Doesn't cost you anything to look around, and whenever you are ready to make a purchase, just use coupon code Bunny, and she'll take good care of you.
Absolutely. So, Robert, I had received an email from you all talking about a field test that you all did with the product. So can you speak to that? Because it sounded pretty fun. You didn't get into a lot of detail about the results, but I figured why not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the product that I was trying out the most there is something that we call Shameless Trio, which is apomorphine, which I was talking about earlier, and sildenafil and tadalafil, and it is it is extremely powerful. I don't like to be crass, even though we are on a lifestyle show, and even though I see plenty of telehealth ED ads that are pretty crass, but suffice it to say the product works amazingly well. The sildenafil is what gives people kind of that initial punch. It's a shorter acting medication, but one that works pretty quickly and pretty dramatically for most people. And then the Cialis, or the tadalafil rather, which is the active ingredient in Cialis, but we use the generic version, tadalafil. It lasts for up to 36 hours. So for people who like that spontaneity, it is really a nice product for them. And again, that apomorphine is that dopamine agonist, which really helps create that sexual arousal in men. And that's what enables those other two medications to work better. And I dare say that a lot of people, particularly in the lifestyle, who are struggling due to the mental side of things, could really benefit from Shameless Trio, and that's something that they might want to consider trying. Something else I'll mention too, Bunny, is that if people add a product to their cart, check out, the next thing they're going to be presented with is the medical intake form. They fill out that medical intake form. If that physician denies them treatment for any reason, they get a complete refund. So there's really no risk associated with, giving it a shot.
Well, that's wonderful. I've heard plenty of stories, and I know from personal experience that one of the most challenging um, things is for people to get comfortable um, in a social setting like a swinger club or a party or even a convention like Naughty and Narlands. Um, and so having that um, option available to them, I think, is doing the whole community a due diligence because um, a lot of people, especially what I call newbies in the lifestyle, um, they go from you know, just a little bit of romantic music, maybe some candles, and them alone in the room with their partner, to having sometimes fully dressed people standing around over them, making comments, cracking jokes, drinking, having a good time. And now they've got to focus on let's get sexy. And it's not from lack of desire, but again, like you said, sometimes it's hard to shut your brain off so that so that your genitalia and your brain are aligning.
Mhm.
So having a product like that is key to a lot of people enjoying that atmosphere because now they're able to get into that zone a little bit quicker. um, I remember when I brought my ex into the lifestyle, it took about 3 months for him to be able to perform in that environment. And there was a lot of frustration with that because um, trying to learn how to tune out things, trying to learn how to, uh, laser focus on the task at hand, quote unquote, and things like that was really a struggle. And some people, 3 months is a long time not to be able to perform in that type of environment. Especially if you're watching other people perform. Um, and so having something like I can't even pronounce what you were saying. Um, but so having a product like that, helping people get in that zone a lot quicker. I think that is going to become probably one of your more popular products that Shameless Care offers because a lot of people have been looking for something to help them go from 0 to 60 a little bit quicker than 3 6 months. And be able to kind of enjoy the environment they're in because a lot of times that may be the one time you're out at, in a city you've never been in, and you decide to go dip your foot in the pond, at least you can swim, as opposed to having to sit, on the stairs and watch everybody else have a good time. So
Yeah.
again, I truly thank you for even having the frame of mind to think and consider something like that, because I really do feel like you're doing a lot of people um, a great service by offering something that's going to get their mind in the game a lot quicker and help their body follow that lead.
Well, thank you. I think I have a story here that will help everybody, particularly people who have been wanting to receive a penis, but it didn't work that night, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this for several years, but ultimately what this is caused by is it's not anxiety in the way that people think about it. It's adrenaline. It's the brain senses something is new or different, and it's an old fight or flight response, which so many people have heard of. There's a very primitive part of your brain that just senses something is new here, right? It may be the people talking like you were talking about, or just the fact that it's a new partner, or oh, by the way, your new partner's spouse is 5 feet away.
Yeah.
But there's all these things happening where your brain just goes, you know what? I might have to fight somebody, or I might have to run away. And the last thing your body needs, if it has to fight or run away, is an erection.
True
And
that.
yeah, and so that adrenaline, and we've all felt adrenaline before. You've been driving and oh, you almost hit the curb or something and your heart's beating. It doesn't have to be that strong for you to have adrenaline in your blood, and it literally makes it nearly impossible to get an erection. So when you think about it that way, if anybody's ever been wanting to be with somebody who's having a bout of impotence for the evening, and you might think to yourself, am I not hot enough? Is something wrong? It may be that you're too, it may be that you're too hot. If you think about it that way, the
Bam.
situation was just a little too exciting. And so I think if everybody realizes that this is a brainstem level function of being a human that you really can't control. It just like breathing or anything else. It's just a part of being human. You can't control it. Then we'll all cut ourselves and other people a little bit of more slack and kind of take it for as it is, which is, an almost foregone conclusion, particularly for gentlemen who are new, like your ex buddy. I mean, of course, it's going to be a new situation for someone who's new, obviously. But that's where medications can really help. They don't help everybody, but they do help a lot of people. And what people don't want to do is struggle with this time and time and time again, Bunny, and not get help. And then suddenly, anybody out there who's listening to me right now with a penis knows this to be true. The next time you go to the party, that's the only thing you're going to be thinking about is, oh God, God, I hope it works tonight. Please, 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 I hope it works tonight. And that is the number one way to make sure that it probably doesn't, is because
Yes.
that's, really what you're thinking about. But obviously, if you struggle, 2, 3, 4 times in a row, that may be the consequence, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't, I'm not a penis owner, but I've been with a lot of penis owners, and what I have seen is that the harder you try, the worse it gets. And so again, I commend you for having these products, because it does assist people with getting out of their own head. Um, because that, like you said, if you had trouble before, you walk in with anxiety, and I almost want to kind of walk around with a pocket full of Xanax, like pop a couple of these and come back. I'm gonna need you to relax, relate, and release, okay? But but it happens, and I have seen it. I have been in a room with a guy who was damn determined that he was gonna stick his penis in my vagina come hell or high water, and the harder he tried, the worse the situation got.
Yeah.
And he was like, suck it, play with it, rub on it, let me feel your boobs, let me, and I was like, buddy, I'm like, this ship is not gonna sail. Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
it's like the Titanic with a hole in it. It is not gonna happen, buddy. But again, I have seen those unfortunate situations where the harder they try, the less hard they're gonna get. And so having something that again gets their mind um out of that fight or flight, out of that anxiety mode, um, I think is a really good service for a lot of men out there who do struggle because it's mental for them. Women have it easy when it comes to that. You know, if we are not aroused, slap some lube down there and the party is still going. With you all, you know, if the mind and the body is not in sync, you know, good luck to you. The boat's not going to float. And so I appreciate that you as a penis owner recognized that and said, you know what, I got to help my fellow penis owners out and make this playing field a little bit more even. So again, thank you, Robert, and I appreciate you being here. Do you have any final parting words in our last few minutes?
No, be sure to check out shamelesscare.com and definitely use coupon code Bunny if you decide to make a purchase, and read the reviews and things like that. But no, Bunny, I just really appreciate the introduction at Naughty New Orleans, and for finally touching base and doing this. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Robert. I appreciate you for coming on the show. And please know that if you have anything new that's coming out or anything that you want to talk about or launch, you are more than welcome to come back on my show. I'd have you a million times over. You have been a pleasure to have on the show. I truly appreciate your time. I appreciate your due diligence. I appreciate you remembering who I was. Because I met a ton of people at Naughty, and I was like, I'd love to have you on the show. And you're one of the few who actually was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to come on, and I truly appreciate that. I love the fact that we are now going to be able to have Shameless Care as one of our sponsors, rep you nice and hard, and pun intended, and just make sure that we spread the word that you're out there, because the products that you have and the um, services that you provide are truly top notch and much needed. And I think people like myself, because I do have your home testing kit. And I appreciate having that as an option because I'm a busy girl and I can't always um, go to the doctor to get something checked out when I got a million other things happening. So knowing that I can take a test, send it in, have a doctor review it, let me know if everything is okay or if I need to be treated, is such a gem to have in my back pocket, because you never know, and although I go to the doctor on a regular basis and get tested, there are those times like I could be, on a cruise, on a cruise ship in the middle of a bug tussle, and have a situation go, and I'm like, I'm not feeling the best, halfway through the cruise, and I may want to, I can take that with me. I can do that test and, and drop that in the post office, and I don't mind paying the international rates. But get that off to you all. And by the time I get home, you've gotten the um, kit, you've been able to run the results, and I can get home and find out if everything is good. So I do truly appreciate that because it does give you a great peace of mind knowing that you can take care of your health no matter where you are. For me, that is absolutely just what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Priceless. That's the word I'm looking for. And I have done plenty of I've done HIV tests on like live on my shows, just showing people how easy it is to do it at home testing. So the fact that you offer the STI testing at home is just fantastic, especially for people who want the discretion. Because some people just for a variety of reasons, want the discretion of being able to do something like that at home. So thank you, Robert. Love you to the moon and back, and I can't wait to see you at Naughty because I am definitely gonna be there, baby.
All right.
Well, we're gonna say goodbye. Love y'all. Mwah.